Now, on today's program, we're going to talk to some of the activists who've uncovered the political insanity hijacking our schools, and we'll ask various state lawmakers what they're doing and what you can do to win back our educational freedom. Now, to start off the conversation, let's turn to Wisconsin, where a documentary exposes educrat corruption in their public schools. Andrew Marcus, he's the producer of this film. It's a film titled Recreating America, Cultural Sensitivity in Wisconsin Schools. And we're also joined by Kyle Olson, who is founder of EAGnews.org. He's been tracking what's been going on in Wisconsin's education system for years. And he's also featured in this documentary. Gentlemen, thank you both so much for joining me. I appreciate it. Marcus and Andrew Marcus and Kyle Olson, I appreciate it so much. So let's start. I want to start with, first of all, let me start with Kyle Olson, because you've been in Wisconsin, you've been following this. Education is something you've always been incredibly passionate about, and you've always had a very sharp eye turned towards this topic. How long has this been happening in Wisconsin schools? Is this a recent development, Create Wisconsin? How long has this been happening?
It started in 2009. It's been growing ever since. In fact, they're having their next conference in just a couple weeks in Green Bay. And so what they're trying to do is, as you said, what they're trying to do is change America through our schools. And they're working under this guise of trying to improve educational outcomes for special education students, which, as you said, is very laudable. I think that's a noble mission. But instead, what they're focusing on is they're focusing on white privilege. They're focusing on, how society works and all of those sorts of things. And our point in all of this is that that is not going to do anything to change educational outcomes for students.
Right. For instance, Samuel Betances, this is when he was talking about pilgrims and illegal aliens. Let's roll this clip, because this is one of the things featured in this documentary, and this is the man who really inspired Create Wisconsin.
I want you to say, the pilgrims were illegal aliens. I want you to say, the pilgrims did not give their passport to the Indians. And we consider them heroic.
Andrew Marcus, behind this documentary, when you were looking at all of the footage and piecing this all together, can you tell me how does this, first of all, how does the philosophy of somebody like Samuel Betances, how does that help special ed students?
Oh, frankly, I don't think it helps special ed students at all. It's amazing. We looked through his entire keynote speech. I don't think he mentioned special education once, and this is all supposed to be about instructing special ed teachers how to better the work that they do with special ed, and they don't even mention it.
Yeah, and that address that he gave was from one of the was it the Wisconsin Public School Conference or the Create Wisconsin Conference?
Right, and he was the keynote speaker at the Create Conference in 2010. So this is his message, and this is all of their message. It all has to do for them through the prism of race and privilege. And their whole concept is that there are people who are part of a privileged class. It's white people, it's men, it's heterosexuals, and able-bodied people. These are all people of privilege. Everyone else is unprivileged. And anyone who ends up in special education is likely because they are part of the unprivileged class, and that is what channels them into special ed. So they see it all as bias discrimination.
Right, right. So. And Kyle, I don't think that taxpayers in Wisconsin would have such a problem with their tax dollars being used to helping improve education for special ed students or helping special ed students get a richer education. But this is the taxpayer money is being spent on these, Create Wisconsin project, the Create Wisconsin conferences, this social engineering, which does nothing. You can't measure this in test scores, and you can't get a job with this type of education. Do people in Wisconsin realize that their taxpayer dollars are going towards this? And to that note, how much of their taxpayer dollars are going towards this?
The Department of Public Instruction, which is the education department in Wisconsin, reported to the federal Department of Education that they spent $890,000 on this per year for the last couple years. And so they're spending almost $1 million. But no, the traditional media has never breathed a word about this sort of program. Or the other sorts of cultural sensitivity programs. I mean, unfortunately, it takes people like us to say, look, this is, a travesty. What is going on? This misdirection of priorities and all of those sorts of things. And I think you're exactly right. What is happening is they're taking their eye off the ball. They have a very legitimate problem in that some different races are being misclassified as needing special education services. They're taking that legitimate problem and they're twisting it into serving their own political agenda.
Wow. And with all of it, and it's not just Betances either, Andrew, you, in making this documentary, what all did you find and how many individuals involved with Create Wisconsin do you have on film that are saying this crazy social engineering stuff?
Well, it's actually really difficult to find the footage of them delivering these kinds of political sermons at these conventions, because they know that if this were shown widely, it would be completely rejected. And when any of this is exposed, they pull this stuff down off their website. The sunshine makes them run for the hills.
Have they been scrubbing their site?
They've been totally scrubbing their site. They're running scared from this. I mean, the work that Kyle Olson and EAG is doing is really amazing work that's making them run scared. But when you dig into their writings and you dig into other speeches that they've given, you can see exactly the message that they're giving. And Kyle Olson is exactly right. What they are doing is to the tune of almost $1 million a year. They're taking precious resources for special ed and channeling it to something that has nothing to do with special education. They're robbing children of special needs.
Yeah, and Kyle, I'm sure you've reached out to Wisconsin school districts. I mean, I know you have. What's been the response from the Wisconsin public school districts? What's been the response from people in Create Wisconsin?
Well, there were other teachers we tried to talk to, and it was very difficult to find teachers who would talk about this. We've seen in other states, in other locales around the country, with these different trainings that are going on. I mean, teachers are very upset. They feel like, you know, they're supposed to because of this training, it's supposed to make them feel guilty because of their skin color and because of their so-called privilege. And so it's the social engineering, as you said, and again, our position is that schools should be focusing on improving educational outcomes for students. I mean, to me, that's the purpose of a school. And what they're doing is they're taking their eye off the ball, and they're focusing on this social re-engineering to try and fulfill, their ideal utopia of America.
Andrew, have you heard from parents after this documentary came out?
We have not heard from parents yet, because I think people are scared to speak out about this. We had the one teacher that we had who spoke publicly, Christy LaCroix. She's a hero.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's very difficult for people who are involved in this to come out and speak publicly about it, because they have to exist in the system after they openly complain about it. So they're real cautious about airing it.
And Kyle, they've been sold that Create Wisconsin, this is all going to help education. This is going to help students, and so that's how this has been sold to parents. This is how, I mean, is this something that the entire public school district is, they're aware of this, they're fine with it? I mean, I just can't imagine something like this, no one having objections aside from Christy LaCroix, who's been one of the only individuals to kind of speak out.
Well, I think just the fact that very few people are actually outraged shows that this mentality has just infected the system. And it's not just Wisconsin. These sorts of trainings are going on all over the country. If you look at Betances' website, for example, he lists all of his clients. And it's literally hundreds of school districts around the country. And so, I mean, this whole mentality has just infected public schools, and our point is that this is what is changing America, because far leftist radicals knew that the way to change America was through schools, through the media, through Hollywood, and they're using our schools to change America.
Kyle Olson, EAGnews.org. Thank you so much for your work. Andrew Marcus, Recreating Wisconsin. You've done Hating Breitbart. You've done a ton of different documentaries. We're going to come back. We are going to come back, because look at this. I have a ton of notes, and we have so much to discuss with these guys. We have a whole other segment with you. Stay right here with us.